McDonald, 3 minutes, please.
Before raising my question, can I extend our sympathy to the family of former Deputy Seymour Crawford, who I understand is being laid to rest today, and sympathy to you and your party colleagues. Oireachtas go raibh anam dílis. Taoiseach, this morning Care Alliance Ireland published a report regarding the provision and shortcomings of public provision of home care. Its findings are stark, and they highlight a shocking reality facing thousands of our most vulnerable citizens who are in need of care and support. The report finds that over 6,000 people are on waiting lists for home care packages, a finding that was also communicated to my party colleague Ceachta Louise O'Reilly, where the HSE acknowledged to her that the number of people waiting for home care support stands currently at 6,118. The report states that people are waiting up to 2 years in some cases for home care support, and that the average waiting time in one HSE area is 6 to 9 months. The report also estimates that there is an 18% gap across the board between the number of care hours being provided and those required. In one HSE area, only 60% of hours requested are being provided. So the figures are absolutely shocking, Taoiseach. And why are they shocking? Well, because services have been cut and they remain underfunded, Taoiseach. The report finds that there was a reduction in services between 2009 and 2012, and most acutely between 2011 and 2012 under Fine Gael and Labour, where there was a reduction of 1.5 million home care hours. Despite the service remaining underfunded, there have been no additional resources allocated to home care supports in next year's budget, Taoiseach. And that illustrates a complete disregard for the value of home care. It is, as you will know, one of the most important services provided within the public system. Care delivered in the home is the preferred form of care for most people and their families, particularly for older people. The vast majority of older citizens want to live independently and comfortably in their own home for as long as is possible. Home care packages are also vital for many with a disability or in medical need. And providing these packages makes absolute sense socially, but also economically. It saves money to the state and it frees up resources. Failure to provide these packages leaves people stuck in hospitals or forced into residential facilities when they could return home if adequate care was provided. And of course this has a knock-on effect, contributing to the trolley and waiting list crises in our hospitals, as beds are occupied by those who want to and who are ready to return home, but who are prevented from doing so. The HSE have said home support services must be delivered within the funding available. So the logical solution, Taoiseach, is to make more funding available. I want to know, will you revisit your allocation of funding to provide for additional home care packages next year? And will you, in line with the report's recommendations, move quickly to deliver a fairer, better home care support service?
Thanks very much. Just first of all, I want to thank the Deputy for her words of condolence to the family, friends, constituents and party of Seymour Crawford. As you know, he's being buried this afternoon in Monaghan, and had the opportunity to visit the house yesterday, and many of us served with Seymour for a period of time, and I think he truly was a wonderful public rep and a gentle giant and a good friend to many of us, and I know there'll be an opportunity at a later date to pay tribute to him in a more substantial way. In relation to home care, government, HSE and health policy very much favours home care. Home care enables older people, but not just older people, to get out of hospital much quicker, and in many cases with good home care means they don't ever have to go to hospital at all. It also means that people who need it, particularly elderly citizens, are able to spend much more time in their homes before they have to go into long-term residential care. The Deputy referred to 2011 and 2012, and I've no doubt that she is correct in what she said in that regard, but is of course not 2011 or 2012, it is now 2018. And there has been a considerable increase in resourcing and funding for home care during those past 3 years. So if you take 2015, for example, the budget for home care was €306 million. This year it is €420 million, so that's an increase of more than 30% in the past 3 years alone. An extra billion is provided for help next year. That has not yet been allocated. I'm certain some of it will be allocated for additional home help and additional home care packages. We do need to make sure, however, that that billion gets to the patients. And we need to come together as a House and make sure that that billion doesn't get lost up in red tape and pay demands and other things. We need to make sure that money goes to patients, goes to extra home help, extra home care packages, new medicines, new services, new equipment, and that's the big challenge that we have collectively in this House over the next couple of months, is making sure that billion, or as much of that billion as possible, actually goes to patients, gets to the patient, and means better care from them, including things like extra home help and extra home care packages. In 2018, the service plan provided for 17 million home help hours, and that provided home help to 50,500 people. We acknowledge absolutely that there will be a need for additional resourcing for it next year, and that is planned. And we do acknowledge that there are regional inconsistencies in waiting times from one region to the other. In some places, the waiting time is as little as 24 days, and others it's 6 to 9 months on average. It is, of course, a policy dilemma. When you allow for regional autonomy, you will have regional variation. But that's something we need to bear in mind. But what we plan to do, in line with the Sláinte Care Plan and the Sláinte Care Implementation Strategy, is to develop a statutory scheme for home care. So very much using the Fair Deal model. People can now apply for Fair Deal for long-term care. If they qualify for it, they will get long-term care in about 4 weeks. But because we don't have a statutory scheme like that, some people may get home care within 24 days, others may wait 6 to 9 months. So we believe what needs to be done now is that we establish a statutory scheme for home care, not the same as the Fair Deal, but working on that Fair Deal model, which has proven to be a success.
Just before you come on, Deputy, I just want to say, our love, Jess J, Ata, Enyam, Seymour Crawford. Deputy McDonald.
So we're agreed, I'm sure all of us, on the necessity for home care packages, and their social necessity, but also their economic common sense. That's not a matter of controversy. The report is very clear, Taoiseach, and the figures aren't wrong, that the 1.5 million hours cut from the system have not been fully replaced, that there is a 16% deficit in terms of the hours that are required. They also make a suggestion, a proposition as to how that might be funded. It's somewhere north of €100 million. They believe additional needs to be dedicated to this service. I want to know quite simply, will you do that? And you will know, as I know, I'm sure through your constituency work, I have constituents who have a home care package that amounts to a half an hour a day. For some people who are really, really sick, or who have very, very serious disability, you would barely have your coat off and the kettle on within the timing of a half an hour. It is a derisory allocation. So the system has been starved of resources. The past damage is done. But now the repair work has to start. So I want to know, rather than vague assertions, I want to know, will you dedicate the resources necessary to meet and to close that 16% gap in service provision?
Thanks, Deputy. The HSE service plan for 2019 isn't written yet. It's not finalised. It's only currently being drafted. But what I want to ensure, as head of government, is that €1 billion, the extra €1 billion of taxpayers' money that we're putting into the health service next year actually gets to the patients, or as much of it as possible actually gets to the patients. And that means additional home care. It means additional home care packages. It means new medicine. It means new equipment. It means new building. And certainly what I'd welcome from Sinn Féin is your ideas as to how that €1 billion should be broken down and how it should be spent, because it isn't good enough for any serious opposition party, certainly not one that wants to be in government, to come in here every week demanding more funding for all forms of healthcare and then adding up to €2 or €3 billion. We know that there's only so much that we can dedicate to the health service next year. It is an extra billion. It's a very big increase, and I hope you will share with me my desire that the priority be given to patients and that the money goes to patient care and to additionality, not to paying more for the same, because more of the same is not the solution for our health service. And we've seen, as I pointed out, an increase in home care from 306 million in 2015 to 420 million, a massive increase of 120 million in 3 years. Are we seeing the results for that for patients? I think we're not, and that's probably why we need a new system and a new way of providing home care. And that's why we believe a statutory scheme is the way to go, in line with soldier care, not just more of the same.